Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Masha Allah, with the blessing of God, we're here to attend another Quran study. This is absolutely a blessing of God that He allowed us to be here, and we need to be thankful to God. Inshallah, reading from Surah 55. So, Surah number is 55, and the name of the Surah is Most Gracious, Ar-Rahman. I seek refuge in God from Satan, the rejected, in the name of God, Most Gracious, Most Merciful. Verse number 1, the Most Gracious, teacher of the Quran, creator of the human beings, He taught them how to distinguish. The sun and the moon are perfectly calculated, the stars and the trees prostrate. He constructed the sky and established the law. You shall not transgress the law. You shall establish justice. Do not violate the law. So, in a couple of things that mentioned is the name of the surah is Most Gracious, and the focus on this surah is about the graciousness of God, that what has God bestowed upon us, and how we need to be responding to God. The one verse that is repeated in this surah is again and again, and that's the question: is God is asking us and jinns that what He has done for us, and how far are you going to deny God's blessings? Like an atheist or disbeliever, how far are you going to go? I mean, everywhere you look, you see God's blessings, and this is this is a question for every jinn and human. So this verse number 1 is the most gracious. And I think the mention is I found like 4 or 5 verses in total where God is talking about the hell, and everything else is about positive things. So because of the name of surah is most gracious, so God does not want to talk too much about hell. And He's the teacher of the Quran. So God is the creator of humans and jinns. So obviously, if you create something, if you make something, you know every part of the whatever you have put it in it. You make a dish or you make some uh, anything that you make, you pretty much know how you made it, you know the formula of it. So God is the creator, so He knows how to teach the human being. So He's the best. He is basically the only teacher that who can really teach us. If anyone is been sealed from learning the Quran, who has disbelieved, or God has put a seal on his heart, you can call the whole world. Humans and jinn can get together and get all the tafsirs and everything possible you can to explain the Quran to someone who has been locked out of Quran. You cannot, because that's it. Um, in previous surah we read, there are 4 verses. God says God has made the Quran easy. So if you see the pattern, God is saying this book is easy. I am the teacher, and who can join this study? So book is easy. I'm the teacher. Who can study? So in this one, God is saying I'm the teacher, and His book is easy. And the next surah, you will find God says who can actually access the Quran, as those are sincere. In surah number 56, where we see the flow, and so He's the creator, and He has taught us how to distinguish this property of being be able to distinguish between two things. Is we just take it for granted. We think, oh, it is just good and bad, hot and cold, and all the things, evil and good. We think that this is just normal. We know that this is the quality that God has taught us. Even from a childhood, a kid can even understand what is distinguished between many of the things depending on their knowledge. So we should be grateful to God that, and we need to use this quality, and the best possible way that we can use it is between choosing God or Satan. That's the best thing you can do with this quality, and beside many of the applications in this world. And if you use it wisely in that aspect, then everything else will be taken care of for you, mashallah. And God is talking about the sun and the moon are perfectly calculated. I mean, there's so much precise calculation between sun, moon, and the earth, the part of the earth that is, though the moon is so close to earth, the sun is so far away, but compared with their size, they look the same size. That's one thing to ponder upon. And the moon is so much calculated that the part of the moon that is visible on earth, it goes around once every month on a lunar, but it does not spin on its own axis. So the part of the sun that you see it's just looking at you as going around the earth. It does not rotate. If you put a face on the moon, you will see the moon is always looking at you. So just imagine if just a slight movement on its or axis, then you can see the other side of the moon. So how precise calculation would that be to for millions and millions of years? It's just going around and it just kind of locked on you, like you tie a ball with a rope. And so when you spin around it, because it's locked with the rope, so you're going to see only one side of the ball, you're going to see it. But here there's nothing connected, but the calculation is so precise that it does not rotate. And how the earth is going around the sun, and when the moon is between sun and earth, the gravity should be more on moon because it's more closer to the sun. But the calculations are so precise that nothing deviates from God's commandment. And why God is mentioning that? Because God says that He's constructed the sky and established the law. He made all the systems in on earth, which we know that it took twice as long than creating all the seven universes. So all these laws has to be established. Everything, the water cycle, the oxygen, everything has to be precise. One thing goes out of bound, and we can see things start going falling apart. As we see, the global warming, I mean, is causing a lot of destruction because see, this is a slight change in temperature can cause so much destruction. So everything has to be precise, and these are God's signs that God is showing us. Look, if something moves just a little bit, look, see how much destruction happens. So these are signs for us to learn that this all thing is not just evolution. This is controlled completely by God. And then God is telling us, just as He has established the law for everything, you shall do what you supposed to do, that you shall not transgress the law, because the plants and air, everything obeying God, they obeying God, and we are part of it, the human and genes. So God is telling us, just as they don't transgress, you shall not transgress the law. You know, an apple tree is designed by God to grow apples and clean the air. It does. It tries every possible way to do the best job, unless they're infected with a disease or something. But it's gonna strive, given opportunity, is gonna do its job best. And similarly, God has given us the food and everything, so we should strive as best as we can to obey. We should learn from the trees. We should learn from the animals and other things. These are the signs that God is telling us. You shall establish justice and do not violate the law. And justice, just like God is the most just, God is teaching us, you be equitable justice in every matter that you can possibly do. Don't violate and do not violate the law. Uh, so I'll go to this. And just a quick thing, that God is a teacher of the Quran. The Surah Fatiha #1 is like a password to the Quran. I mean, if you don't believe in God, you have no access to God. This is like your password is wrong. So verse #2 says, "Praise be to God, the Lord of the universe." If you have anybody else praising beside God, then you have add another number into the password. As we know that passwords are case sensitive. Even one letter add or remove or higher or lower case, you will not be able to log in. So only praise be to God, the Lord of the universe. And if you alone we worship, you alone we ask for help. If you have anybody else beside God you're worshiping, or you have asking anybody else for help, you have messed up the code. So you don't have access to the code. The closer example you can do is like a computer or cell phone. When you open a cell phone or computer, there's a login screen. If you don't know the password, that's the far out you're going to get. You cannot log into the computer, and you are barred from all the things that computer can do. You are basically stuck in the login screen. But those who can log in, not only they can access all the apps and everything, they can go on web and they can watch movies and they can do whatever they want. They can make direct call. And in this sense, if you think Quran is like a cell phone, you have access to God. You can call God anytime you want. So there are so many things you are missing if you don't have access to the Quran. Just like a cell phone, with and without password, mashallah. And distinguish, and that's we know. And then look at this is the moon. If you have a face on the moon, this is what you're going to see all around going, mashallah. And verse #10, God says he created the earth for all creatures. In it there are fruits and date palms with their hanging fruit. Okay, and then Mr. Cohen had added a footnote, and which is a good comparison between a spaceship. So compare the spaceship Earth's renewable system and reproducing astronauts with the most sophisticated spaceship that we launch into the space, God be glorified. Just like we send the spaceship, the space shuttles in the space, in the space station in the orbit, uh, we need to provide them all the things from Earth, and it's how the life is. There's no gravity, and how they, I mean, they have to, all the things are that we take granted in this Earth. And when you go, if you were to live in a space station, it will be so horrible. I saw one of the space astronaut when he landed. As soon as he got out, he kissed the ground. He said, "This spaceship is." He said, "People, you don't know what you're missing. This is heaven." Because no matter what we try, we cannot create something like that. And this spaceship, we know that how God has keep the air around the Earth with gravity and all that. We don't have anything in the space. You have to make the spaceship in a way that there's not even air can leak. The whole ship has to be air sealed, all, and producing oxygen and food and everything. The gravity, I mean, going to the bathroom in spaceship is a challenge. Drinking out of cup is a challenge. You have to drink from a bottle. I mean, there's so many things to appreciate on this God's on the spaceship. And then God continues, says that also grains and the spices, O human and the jinn, which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? So this is the first mention of this very important verse in Surah 55. He created the human from aged clay, like the potter's clay, and created the jinns from blazing fire. O human and jinn, which of the Lord's marvels can you deny? He created so many grains and so many spices. I was just going through this highlighting and all that. There's a book sitting in front of me, and I just ponder upon it. And this, my wife likes to cook cakes and all that, and this, it says 1001 cookie recipes. So there's 1001 different recipe, and there's 419 pages, and page after page, different type of cookie, different taste. So just imagine, not only there are recipes, each cookie in itself is different from the other cookie. Otherwise, if two cookies are a lot alike and same in taste, then this number will change to 1000. So just imagine that many taste buds that our tongue can taste. If we didn't have that, any cookie will be the same thing, because there we don't have taste buds, then it will be the same thing. But how amazing God is that he can create, and this is just the cookies, and there's so much other, the spices, the salt, and other, I mean, to mention. And then God is saying that he created the grains, so many different kind of grains that the plants they grow, and how rice and beans and all the other stuff that God they create. These trees and plants are obeying God, as we were reading here. Trees and stars prostrate. What is the meaning of prostrate? uh, Basically, when God told angels to prostrate to Adam, it was just to serve him. So they prostrate to God. Basically, they do what God is telling them, and that is, in a nutshell, is worshiping God. And and so they're producing all these grains and rice and everything, and the spices that we come get from. I mean, who do we think we are? I mean, if you think about evolution has done anything to do with it, like evolution, did it commanded the plants, hey plants, you work for hard for us? And what do we think, are we made of gold or something? What do we think we are? I mean, these creatures, they stay in, I mean, sometimes it's hot in, and you cannot stand under the sun for maybe a couple of minutes because you want to go under shade. And these trees, they seek through the branches, can open area to get the sun and to clean the air and produce food for us. I mean, these are the examples that God is teaching us through plants, that look what they are doing and look what you are doing. They're serving you on earth. They don't have to. They produce things for you. They don't have to. They can just live their own life. They're working so hard to support human life for us to ponder. And our livestock, they eat the byproduct and we eat the fruits. And then God is saying that human beings are made of aged clay, like a potter's clay, the part that make the structure, the statues and everything. And here is the definition of the jinns. They're created from blazing fire. I mean, God had created from, fire, blazing fire coming out of something, and you cannot do anything to the fire unless you can probably cook with it. But God, so awesome, he took this fire and he made a creation out of that fire, which is such a much more stronger than human being. Imagine he turning the fire into a creation. So God can do anything. There's nothing is impossible for God. and and there's a link between clay and fire, because when you made something with mud or the clay, you need fire to make it more stronger. So in one kind of parallel, you can see that we have a jinn companion who's made of fire, and we have human body is made of clay, and they're together. When they bind together, they can make something much more stronger. So if you're able to convince your companion in this life, your bond is so strong. And because if you're able to go to elite of the elite heaven, that God is going to talk about the heaven, the two gardens side by side. So you may have your companion living next door and you're living on this side. What an awesome deal would that be? And then again, God says, oh, human and jinn, which of your Lord's marvel can you deny? And so, inshallah, we go to the verse number 17. The Lord of the two easts and the two wests, which of the Lord's marvels can you deny? He separates the two sea where they meet. A barrier is placed between them to prevent them from transgressing. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Out of both of them you get pearls and coral. Which of your Lord's marvel can you deny? So God is talking about two east and two west. I mean, if you think about the earth, east and west is in 12 hours, the earth, which part of the earth you are on the other side, and what was west now become east, because people on this side of the earth, this is east and this is west. On that side, it's the opposite. I mean, they're pointing this way as east, and people on this side, this is for their west. So it just changes on earth. So possibly for the jinns, then because God is going to talk about everything in two heavens, and God is talking about the jinn and human. So possibly their east and west is different, or also possibly the space has its own east and west directions. That could be one of the explanations, but we can talk about it if there's something to understand more about it. And then God again repeats, which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? So every time something is mentioned, there's far more wisdom in these verses, and may God make us more and more understand of these verses, that we can ponder upon what are the benefits of these. A separate He separates the two sea where they meet. So there are, I mean, pull out some of the pictures from them, and there are two of the seas. That one side is kind of a different water, and then one side is different. And then there's a few more pictures that there's a barrier in between them. You can clearly see they just don't transgress. Otherwise, they would be mixing with each other. There's some kind of barrier in between them that they don't. God has told us that He established the law. Don't transgress the law. Just like all these things are following God's law. As the water evaporates from the sea, it has a law that only water is allowed to leave. Everything else stays in the ocean. So we don't see the acid is leaving the ocean, or the other kind of things that is dissolved. There's like 2,500 different elements in average ocean water. So 2,500 only water is allowed to leave. Masha Allah. So God says there's a barrier, and to prevent them from transgressing. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Out of both of them, you get pearls and coral, as we know that from the water we get so many different kinds of gems, and they're so far in value, and that can be so much wealth in it, mashallah. And these are God's system, that how some of the sea creatures, they produce some of the pearls and corals. They are obeying God. They eat food, and how their body is able to make those beautiful gems. And these are all marvels of God, that God says, which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? There's a Marvel's series on movies, that they can do all kind of different things, powerful things that human cannot possibly do. They can fly, they can pick up heavy things, and all sort of things. But these are God's marvel, that if we can only ponder upon them. And then verse number 24, God says that He gave you ships that roams the sea like flags. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Make sure so everyone earth perishes. Only the presence of your Lord lasts, possessor of majesty and honor. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Imploring him is everyone in the heavens and the earth. Every day he is in full control. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? We see that ships, now we have much more advanced technologies, the diesel engines and all that. But as we know that in the previous time, most of the ships were they have those sailing type of flags that they push air, and this is a marvel of God that God talks about in other places, how they float on water, such a heavy ship. Have you seen those big cruise ships or the big ships, that cargo ships? They're so heavy. Even to launch it, they have to put them on some kind of uh, sliding platforms so they can just slide onto the water. They're so heavy, but the water is something so, like, it doesn't even have any shape. You put in water something, it becomes that shape. You throw water in air, it just disappears all over the place. But that thing can hold a ship, which has no structure. It has no structure, but can hold the ship in his hands, you can say. And not only that, the wind that blows on the sea, they can push the ships into one direction. And and then there's a method that you can use, like for example, if you have going one direction to the A to B, and but the wind is blowing the opposite direction, and how are you going to go this way? And so the sailors, they use a technique of 45 degrees. So they're going to do is they're going to go 45 degrees this way, and they're going to shape the flags in a way that it's going to push it towards this way, even though the wind is blowing that way. And then they're going to make a 45-degree this way, so that's why they can go across against the wind. And when they have to travel with the wind, that's pretty much easy. And look at these, the ship, and doesn't it look like a season, like flags on the sea, all these different kind of, so they turn these in a different direction in a way, even though the wind is blowing this way, they can go against the wind. And who taught them all this knowledge is God is the one. And God is saying that everyone on earth perishes, because this earth that we know that we're living in, it's going to be destroyed on the day of judgment. So whatever is on this earth is going to be perish. It's going to be the earth when it ceases to, and the time expires, it may become like a dust or cloud that it was before. It's just, and God is going to create a new earth. And then and God is saying the only possessor of the majesty and the honor presence will last. Your Lord, He's the only one, because he's the possessor of honor and majesty. He's the one who has done everything. The more we understand this word, the possessor of majesty and honor, and who is really in control, the more it will shape our life in a better way. We will stop running after this worldly matters, that just illumination and just has no value in it. Only God possesses everything. And then God is imploring him, everyone in heaven and earth, everyone, all the creatures, uh, ants, trees, bacteria, virus, everything. God says nothing's out of it. Trees, air, everything's imploring. And in the heavens and earth, not just on earth, in the heavens, the seven skies that above us, and we probably don't know what lies in those angels, and everyone, they are imploring God, because every day he's in full control. Imagine at work, you ask for boss for something, or at home, or someone, that person can get sick or not there, who are you going to go? So we depend on people so much. People depend on their spouses, people depend on their kids. That, I mean, there's a lot of cultures that they depend on their kids. When the kids are going to grow older, they're going to support them, instead of imploring to the one who possesses the majesty and the honor. you he's one of the, everyone is imploring him. Why are you running after other creatures that cannot even support themselves? What are they going to do to you? what if they what if they're not there tomorrow? What are you going to do? Are you going to And that's why we see a lot of people go have psychological problems, stress, because they depend their life on someone else other than God. And when that thing did not provide them, then they go all crazy, crying and stress and depression. But the one, God is saying, everyone is imploring, why don't you do the same thing? Learn from the plants and trees. You can never go wrong, no matter what. You run after money, money will keep you running after. You run after God, everything will follow you. This is the same formula even in Bible too. You seek God's kingship over you, everything will be taken care of. Your kids, everyone will be following you. But if you follow them, then that's become even idol worship. And the next verse says, we will call you to account, O humans and jinns. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? O jinns and humans, if you can penetrate the outer limits of the heavens and the earth, go ahead and penetrate. You can never penetrate without authorization. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? You get bombarded with projectiles of fire and metal, and you cannot win. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? So here God is again talking about humans and jinn, that this world, as we know, is created for us, for human and the jinns. 51:56, which describes that God created humans and jinn for to worship him alone. I'm paraphrasing. So we will be account. These trees and plants and ants and cows and all these stuff, they're just there doing their job. They're not on test. We are the one. Humans and the jinn are on the test, and we will have to report to God. Everything what we have done will be come into account. And God is saying, oh jinn and human, if you can penetrate the outer limits of the heavens and the earth. So the if you can see, the earth is for the human beings, and the heaven, because jinns can easily go out of earth, but the heavens, we know that God has a system. When the jinns, they try to go close and try to listen, they are bombarded with projectiles like missiles on them, that so they cannot cross it. But for human, they are, like God says, without authorization. So humans have escaped the earth limit when they went to the moon, and that was one of the signs of the day of judgment. And then the moon has parted in 1969, so that was allowed by God. And whatever God's going to allow and how far they can do, that's authorization from God. And we know that they cannot go so far before, in the future, you might say people living in Mars, maybe that will be authorized by God. But pretty much it, I mean, if you want to go further than that, the speed and all that, it just, with the human life, it does not add up. You will die before you can even get anywhere else, so it doesn't even make any sense, and all those things. But we know that this everything is, imagine the God is controlling this massive orbit, all the area. Imagine a security system. I mean, if you have a big country, to control the borders is even hard. People can come in and out, transgress. But here, the whole system, I mean, God's system is so awesome. I'm sorry. So God's system is so awesome that everything is controlled. And these are signs for us, for him, for us and jinns, that which of the Lord's marvels can you deny? Can you create a system, such a perfect system? You get bombarded with projectiles and fires that made of fire and metal. And we can probably understand fire, because the jinn are created of fire, so they're something to that affect them will be fire. Like human beings are made of clay, so something the matter is can affect us in one way, probably the fire too. But here God is talking about the fire and metal. As we know that if you go in high speed in space, there are meteoroids and space dust and everything. They can affect your ship, and all those things we can ponder upon. But this is God's system, and you can never. I mean, God knows everything in the heavens and earth. God knows our innermost thoughts. So what do you think God doesn't know where everyone is, how to control? Even one jinn try to cross to the space, God knows exactly where they are and everything. So verse number 37. So God's talking about when the sky disintegrates and turns rose colored like paint. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? On that day, no human nor jinn will be asked about his sins. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? This is because the guilty will be recognized by their forelocks. They will be taken by, sorry, the guilty will be recognized by their looks. They will be taken by the forelocks and the feet. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? This is Gehenna that the guilty used to deny. They will be circulate between it and an intolerable inferno. And the footnote says, for details about the high heaven, lower heaven, the purgatory, hell, and the intolerable inferno are given in appendixes 5 and 11. So the God is saying the sky will become like a rose, like red color paint. And where do we see that? The day will come when the sky will be like molten rocks. As you know, the lava when it comes out of gushes out of the ground, that's molten. That's liquid rocks, and it's red, it's hot. It comes down on from the mountain, and you can escape it, you can run away from it. Just imagine on that day when the lava is coming from pouring from sky, there's nowhere to run. Just imagine that. In itself is the lava is like a rain. Nothing can protect you from that kind of lava. Um, as when the COVID was started, remember when people were running out of China, and then but when it spread all over, now like where are you gonna run now? Just to take a hint on that, that when God's judgment comes, there's nowhere to run. And this is God's marvel, that which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? On that day, no human nor a jinn will be asked about his sins. And this is what a weight God has formed this question, this statement, that they will not be asked. Why is that? Because which of your Lord's marvels can you not deny? This is because the guilty will be recognized by their looks. They will have fear on their faces, the pale color on their faces. They're biting their fingernails, and all those things will show them. And not to mention their soul will be so malnourished that they can barely support them. All these signs will be there. I mean, how do in this worldly life, we can see many examples where you can recognize by team, like the basketball game, and then both teams are coming out, one is jumping and cheering and holding a trophy, another are looking down and is walking. You don't even have to ask who won the game. Without even seeing the game, you know who won the game. So righteous, God says they have nothing to fear on the day of judgment. They'll be happy, no fear, they'll be joyful. And so all these things are right there, mashallah. And how horrible that picture will be. They will be taken by their forelocks and the feet. Forelocks is like the hair goes in the front of your head. And so just imagine the angels are holding their hair and the feet and dragging them, not holding their hand and their feet from their hair. What a horrible picture that is. And which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Because this is where you understand why how horrible the idol worship is. That this is just that bad. This is the Gehenna that the guilty used to deny. I mean, somebody who's a mocker, who make fun of God's commandments, if you read this, might say that, oh, okay, my forelocks, I will just shave my head. But that's just so being so not reverence to God's commandment. This we should take heed. Instead of, if anybody makes fun, this is such a horrible place. We need to be reverence and be humble to God's word, that to pray to God, let me not be one of these people. And these are the red one that I show, that these are the only negative type of verses God's talked about. Then God's going to go back into something positive, a learning tool for us. This is the Jannah that guilty used to deny. They will circulate between it and intolerable inferno. So it could possibly be, if you read Appendix 5 and 11, it talks about the higher heaven, the lower heaven, the purgatory, hell, and intolerable inferno. And the Surah 55, so here God's talking about the hell, and then God's going to talk about the higher heaven and the lower heaven. So, and then it'll be a lot more details right in there. And so there's something about the appendix number 5, where Messenger of the Covenant has wrote some that the higher heaven, lower heaven, there are profound differences between both of them. Allegorically, the water in the higher heaven flows freely, and in the lower heaven, you have to pump your own water. And basically, in one way, they have servants in the higher heaven, and maybe in the lower heaven, you have to do everything on your own. The lower heaven has limited variety of fruits, and here they have much more. And allegorically, their spouses will be available for them. They don't have to go find their own spouses. Imagine, it gives me the like in some traditional cultures, the parents arrange, they find their spouses for their children, so the kids don't have to. And in many countries, you have to find your own. So that's one of the difference. I guess that could be seen as a blessing, the parents finding your partners. And here God is gonna, they don't have to find their own, they don't have to fetch their own food, waters, everything is available for them. But the lower heaven, those incredibly fantastic prize for those who are fortunate enough to escape hell. Because even escaping hell in itself is such a blessing. Somebody will find themselves in the purgatory, will be so much happy that I escaped the hell. And going into lower heaven is a great opportunity. Going to the lower heaven, because that's how bad the hell is. People who depart this life before reaching 40 and of the birthday, and did not sufficiently develop their souls, will go to lower heaven. But if they have done it, they go to a higher heaven. And this for the higher heaven is for the righteous and believer and develop their soul sufficiently, who succeed, succeed in, whoever succeed barely missing the hell and admitted into heaven, are as attain great triumph. This is 3:185. God himself is saying this is a great triumph. If you have barely mean just you're right on the border. Your good deeds and bad deeds were so on the borderline, like probably you're in purgatory. You mean this is a great triumph. This is how so from here on, higher heaven, God is going to talk about which of your Lord's marvels can you deny. For those who reverence the majesty of their Lord, two gardens, one for the jinns and one for the humans. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Full of provisions, which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Two springs are in them flowing. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Of every fruit in them, two kinds. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? So basically, human and jinns both are on test, and those jinns and humans are fortunate enough to go to the higher heaven. Uh, there will have two gardens, one for the jinns and one for the human beings. And somewhere I've read it says side by side, so they will be not too far. I guess they can probably somehow get to know there, or something may be possible. But those who reverence the majesty of their Lord. So you have, this is for those who are reverence to majesty of their Lord, who totally openly hearted wholeheartedly accept God, and they obey God. When you obey God, then you're reverencing God. If you disobey God, then you can say all you want that I reverence God, but if you don't obey God, it's reverence comes from obedience. You have your father, you respect your father so much, you say yes dad, yes this and that, but you don't do nothing what he says. Does that, saying yes 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 boss, or an employee who's always saying yes boss you are good, this and that, but he doesn't do his work. Sooner or later boss will gonna find out. So just not saying by mouth, obeying what God is commanding us, full of provisions. Everything is in, there's infinite amount of everything in as we learn from the Quran, in those areas, joy upon joy. Which of the Lord's marvels can you deny? Two springs are in them flowing, possibly uh, could be for the other two gardens, the other garden for one for the jinns, they have their own spring in different form. As the messenger of the covenant explains that the jinn doesn't have anything to do with the steak which you enjoy so much, so they have different foods and different things that they like and enjoy, that humans, which may not have, we may never understand at this point, but maybe in the future, and we may learn more with somebody who's fortunate to go to heaven, that part that they can learn. Which of the Lord's marvels can you deny? Of every fruit in them, two kinds, again, two kinds, possibly one for them and one for us. For every fruit will have two kinds. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Verse 54, while relaxing on furnishing lined with Satan, uh, and the fruits are within reach. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Their beautiful mates were never touched by any human or jinn. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? They look like gems and coral. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Is the reward of the goodness anything but goodness? Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? So here the word is furnishings line with Satan. I don't know how to pronounce the word. It sounds like Satan. Okay, so furnishings. So they have furnishings, and when we will read about the lower heaven, it says green carpet. They're sitting on the green carpet. So maybe there's a difference between in the higher heaven. They have all kind of furnishings in line with the like silk type of material, and the fruits are within reach. They don't even have to like allegorically get up and go to the garden or wherever. Everything will be very close to them, within reach. Like how you see the rich wealthy people, everything is provided for them. They need a glass of water, it's right on there next to them, fruits and everything. They don't even have to go to the kitchen and eat. They just get called in, okay, the lunch is ready, then they just go and eat everything. Even their plates are set in front of them. They even have servants, they can put the food in their plate. They just eat. So that kind of example is God's name. I mean, my understanding is that they have everything provided for them, down to their spouses. Beautiful mates were never touched by any human or jinns. They don't even have to go find their mates. I mean, this is the kind of life, the kingship that God is telling people, that in this world, no matter how powerful king you become, but everything is, again, is limited. Your life is limited. All the pharaohs have died. This is the reality of this world, and their spouses will be gems and coral. How valuable they are. The corals and gems. God is giving us example, like how gems and how diamond and all that stuff are so valuable. This is how comparison to the human the spouses in heaven. So if we should strive for all these things that God is telling us, because these are the marvels of God. That which of the Lord's marvels can you deny? Is the reward of the goodness anything but goodness? When you do good, God is saying, just a question to any human being: when you do good, what do you expect? It's when you do good, the result will be good. In this world, when you do good, there's a question mark. You may not get what you want, but in God's kingdom, if you do good, the result is going to be good. Everything is so precise in God's name. No injustice at all. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Very simple in explanatory form. God is telling us, as we know that this thing has not happened, and God is telling us in the previous verses how the earth is working, how God is controlling everything, just as those things God is doing, as these things will be happen in the future, just as God has done that. So this is for us to learn that how God is running everything. And this is where God is going to talk about the lower heaven, verse 55, 62. Below them, so the lower heaven is below the, it could possibly be in seven layers of sky in some form. So they will be in the lower heaven. Below them are two gardens, one for the jinns and one for the humans. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Side by side, see, there's the word I was looking for, side by side. Two gardens. Which of the Lord's marvels can you deny? In them wells to be pumped. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? In them are fruits, date, palms, and pomegranate. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? So again, two gardens, one for the jinns, one for the heavens, one for the humans, side by side they'll be, and there will be less supplies of everything, works to be done. Uh, Possibly that's like the wealth. God is giving one example. They have to pump their own water, meaning they may have to grow their own agriculture. Maybe they have to work, just like in this world we work to survive. In that maybe sort of format, God is telling us that they will, maybe you can clarify me on that, that the life will be a little bit tougher in here, but still it's a great opportunity. Whoever has escaped hell, because how horrible the hell is, I mean, even you can spare the hell and be homeless. Person will be far better, doesn't no even have place to live. Is even far better. You compare to where you are, where you were. Those people, they grew up in a very, very harsh conditions. When they move to a better area, they really understand the difference. That they were fortunate to get out of that very slum, dirty place where the water is running openly, and the sewage system is just all over the place, and they can understand when all these things has changed. So anybody will look at it, because everybody will see hell on the day of judgment. And even though people are purgatory or in the lower heaven will be so happy that they have missed that hell. So that bad is it. In the fruits, dates, palms, and pomegranate. So here God is talking about some of the things that are on earth. So in the lower heaven, they may have a lot of things from earth, but maybe higher heaven, they have much better stuff. God is saying all kind of fruits in the higher heaven. Everything is available, and which they may have to grow, I guess. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? In them are beautiful mates. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Confined in the tents, which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? No human ever touched them, nor a jinn. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? They relax on green carpets in beautiful surroundings. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Most exalted is the name of your Lord, possessor of majesty and honor. On these verses, which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? There's a sequence in their numbers. Like, see this odd number, odd number, odd number, odd number. And there's a very, and I think Solomon has posted a video in the previous Quran study that how Messenger of the Covenant has explained. There's a very mathematical pattern in just in these verses how they are in the surah. 1400 years ago, nobody could have taught all this, even on odd numbers and all the complex mathematical formulas that we are inventing right now. They didn't have knowledge, and God has put them in the Quran. So that's in itself is a miracle of God that we need to ponder upon. That this book is not created by any human or jinn; is dictated by the Most Gracious, and have no doubts in it. And God is taking about in them are beautiful mates. As my understanding is, God created the 100, roughly, as the Messenger of Covenant says, 100 billion souls are to become to this earth, and God may create mates for them, because if out of a new creation, not from whatever God has created, possibly that could be one of the understanding, as God can create anything, and they're confining the tents that they have to fetch for Him. As the Messenger of the Covenant says, that in the hand they have to go search for their own mates. I don't know where it says that. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? So they don't have, they're not going to be provided for them. They'll have to fetch on their own. No humans ever touch them, nor a jinn. I mean, even coming to the part of the touching is like, these are not like, how we says in this world we have this word like virginity and all that different kind of words that have been used, but in heaven these are pure coral germs, like spouses that God is going to provide for His obedient servants. This is God's promise, and they will be pure in every form, not even their down to the drinks are pure and not polluted, and no sin to ever to drink those. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? They relax on the green carpets in beautiful surroundings. So here they are sitting on carpets, and for the elite of the elite, God is talking about the furnishing, linen with stain. Um, and But here we only see green carpets. Which of your Lord's marvels can you deny? Most exalted is the name of your Lord, possessor of the majesty and honor. So this surah starts with Ar-Rahman, and ends with most exalted is the name of your Lord, possessor of majesty and honor. I mean, how amazing this surah is that, I mean, the whole Quran, Masha Allah, that God is convincing us to take heed. This is your time. You are in this test. Ponder upon. Don't just live, wake up in the morning, go to work, come home, watch TV, go to sleep, wake up in the morning, go to work, come home, watch TV, eat food, and go to sleep. Is this what the life is all about? The animals can do far better than that with very limited brain capacity. And you are human beings. You are here for some very important purpose. Why don't we see a monkey speak like human beings? Why don't we see any other animal have a human kind of brain? If it was evolution, at least one creation would have achieved that level on getting better and better. You don't see any of the creatures in that sense, but how smart human beings are. You don't see a monkey creating a laptop or something. Their brain capacity is not there, mashallah. So inshallah, we'll stop here and ask God, and open the question and comment section. And inshallah, if any mistakes I've done, please God forgive me, and we can clarify that, inshallah. Thank you.
Mashallah. Thank you, Adam.
Praise God.
Masha Allah, Adam, very beautiful study.
Praise God.
Where's the baby?
I think must be new. I don't know.
Oh, mashallah. Yes.
Masha Allah with me, yeah.
Mashallah. I
Grandchildren.
wanted to say, mashallah. So, I think you were saying that the human companions might live next door to the jinn companions, did I misunderstand that?
Yeah, God says that side by side, two gardens side by side. So side by side, maybe like you're living in one country and somebody living in another country side by side. So I guess in that sense, they're in close
Oh,
proximity. maybe.
Okay, because there's four heavens, right? There's two for the jinns and two for the humans. So I was thinking that they have a different heaven. So the heavens are side by side, but our companion will not live next door to us. But
Okay.
I mean, they could be in next door heaven. You can say probably.
All
You
right.
know, like you have U.S. and Canada, they're next door, but
Hmm.
that doesn't mean I can just
Go
go
there.
next door.
Hmm.
But the other thing was, I think I think I think that was the one thing I wanted to comment on, and then yeah, you can come back to me, I guess.
Maybe if somebody has their companion have grown together, and they both go to lead heaven, and they probably meet their companion on the day of judgment, a jinn companion,
Mm,
and
yeah.
they may have a
Mm-hmm.
link too with
Oh,
them.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That somewhere
Yeah,
it's
of
mentioned
course.
in the Quran. Yeah.
Hmm.
The companions will give the
Yeah,
testimony too or something. Yeah.
yeah. And then you also I think what I wanted to say, my mind's going blank right now. But yeah, subhanallah, I mean, these are such beautiful verses, and I mean, I think you mentioned an important point about the most gracious. You said that how God does not talk about hell so much in these verses, and it's because of the title being most gracious. We also know that nothing bad comes from God, and God does not put a single soul to hell. So this is a blessing from God, a great reward, huge incentive for people to work hard to try to redeem themselves, because I mean it is really just God's mercy, because if you really want to look at it, I mean the humans deserve to go to hell because of not siding with God and siding with Satan, not being able to make a firm stand with God, and kind of being neutral and being swept in the crowd. But God, instead of putting us to hell, He gave us this opportunity to prove ourselves and to give us this chance, that we probably, are not worthy of if it's not out of God's mercy, right? And not only that, but He also gives us a great incentive for being able to pass this test. That if we pass, we would be considered among the best creatures, and we'd have rewards that no other creatures will have. We'd be considered among the best creatures because we go through this huge test, great responsibility, which not everybody's going to pass. Obviously, majority of the people are going to fail, but those who do, I mean, it is a huge test. And if you look at it from that standpoint, I think you can see also that you're not gonna achieve all of this greatness in the hereafter, just by like just being nonchalant, just doing bare minimum, and just taking life casually, and compromising when you want to, and just expect to go to higher heaven. Like a lot of people will do that, and a lot of people think that way because it's their wishful thinking, that they think that they can live whatever way they want, and in the hereafter they'll get whatever they want. That's not the case. I mean, we really have to, this great reward is not achievable by everybody, and especially the high heaven, right? And then obviously, based on the rewards, you can see, like, of course, you have to really. This test is really, really hard, for those who need to pass it, and the reward is huge. But obviously, the sacrifices that we have to make and the trials that we have to go through in order to successfully make it is going to be huge as well.
MashaAllah. Yeah. I would like to make a couple of points too here, MashaAllah. Um, yeah, Adam, you explained it very nicely about the God most gracious being the teacher of the Quran. Just wanted to add to it that the previous surah is called the Moon, Surah 54, where many times in this surah, God asked these questions that we made the Quran easy to learn. We made the We made the Quran easy to learn. Does any of you wish to learn? So, and then, so it's like God is inviting that this is not a hard thing to learn. Why are you looking for a hierarchy system to explain to you? There is, mullah, there is hadith books to explain it, there is some kind of sunnah there, fabricated lies to prophet and God. And then there are like ulama, so-called ulama, who would come and tell you and explain the Quran. While simple thing is that only God teaches the Quran if somebody is willing to. See, the religion, we have to choose with our own free will. When somebody wants to learn the Quran with their free will, then God opens the door. It's like if, like a parrot, you're put in an institution to learn the Quran in Arabic at the age of like maybe 3, 4 years old or 5 when you start talking, and you just memorize the Quran. That really not is not learning, even though the memorizing of the Quran itself is an amazing thing, but you do not learn anything out of it. When a human being choose God with their free will and they wish to learn the Quran, it's so important that your wish and your willingness has to be there. And then God will, it's not the reading of the Quran will happen, the learning of the Quran will happen. So, because God is saying, does any of you wish to learn? Lear- Learning comes from God. You could be reading the Quran 100 million times, but you don't have desire to learn, or you're not applying it, you're consulting other sources, not trusting God's statement, like you said, the teacher of the Quran, um, and denying that. Then, once we're learning the Quran, we find that everything must be applied to us when it in terms of commandments, in terms of living a righteous life, which is in the Quran. Subhanallah, and the merciful Lord invites that He is the teacher of the Quran. He invites you. Do you want to learn? Really? Come. So Subhanallah, then He will make it so easy for you. And one more item I wanted to say, like a very common belief among the traditional Muslims is that they think the beautiful mates or the pearl-like mates are just for men. We don't know about the gender, if the soul will have some kind of gender over there or not. So it applies to every male or female here who have a soul and they make it to heaven, inshallah. So then their companions, each soul will have a companion, which will be like in the lower heaven you choose, and in the higher heaven God will do the choosing. Imagine how perfect that would be. So yeah, mashallah, that's it.
Yeah, mashallah. Yeah, how God is the one who's gonna choose for them, mashallah. I mean, provided however they like, and we can never understand the gender system in the hereafter. What God is provided in this world, that's what we understand. And to say things about that God has not mentioned, that this is how it's gonna be, then that's something wrong. We don't know something about God that we are saying. We uh, sorry.
Because that part is completely solely taken by
Yeah,
men and mullahs, and they
yeah,
claim like Hure, the hoods will be available just for men. They never talk about what will their female companions here are gonna get. It's like they don't even exist. Eh, that's why there's so much um, nonsense about going to the heaven, and that, oh, hell will be filled with women and whatnot. Seriously, the society just doesn't really pay attention to what God is saying in the Quran. I mean, the traditionals. Anyway.
Yeah, there's so much inequitability, great in between male and female in the traditional culture, that there's so many hadiths saying if your husband sleeps upset with you, the house door will be closed on you. I mean, so many things that like you hold your head. I mean, who wrote all this? Probably some imam sitting somewhere, writing himself. That all the things are mostly towards the men, appreciating men. They are better Christians. Or when God is saying we both are equal in the Quran, mashallah.
Yeah, I want to read a verse regarding that quickly, if it's okay. Hmm. So, God, Surah 3, verse 195. Their Lord responded to them, I never fail to reward any worker among you for any work you do, be you male or female. You are equal to one another. Thus, those who immigrate and get evicted from their homes and are persecuted because of me and fight and get killed, I will surely remit their sins and admit them into gardens with flowing streams. Such is the reward from God. Um, Such is the reward from God. God possesses the ultimate reward. So the rewards, it shows us that the workers who are strivers will be among the men and women, and then God will. This is the rewards are equal for any kind of striving, like how much soul was grown. The rewards are going to be according to that, not according to the gender. So God says it talks about equality here completely.
Yeah, I think I also wanted to mention that, when it says that God is the teacher of the Quran, it is true that God is the teacher of the Quran. However, we see that a lot of people misunderstand these verses too. When it comes to like listening to the messenger or listening to one another, or things like that. People say that, well, God is the teacher of the Quran, so that means that we don't have to listen to the messenger. But we know that God has a system in place, and His system of teaching us is that He sends a guiding teacher, He sends a messenger, and so in our case, for example, God sent the messenger of the covenant, and He brought in a lot of new information from the Quran, and He taught us a lot of these things from the Quran that we didn't know otherwise. And this was His way that God started teaching us. However, if you compare that to, for example, the Quranists who will not accept Rashad as a messenger, for example, or other people who will say Rashad is a messenger but will refuse to hear anything he has to say and discard his personal opinion, will be prevented from seeing any of that wisdom that is God given, and they will wander off the path and go astray because they're going against God's system. I mean, this is one of the things that the Messenger of the Covenant explained, that the Quran without the messenger misleads the wicked, right? And so these people decide to go against God's system and say, because God is the teacher of the Quran, they're not going to listen to the messenger and just make it on their own. And they we can see the results of that, how these people have like added things and removed things from the religion, and so much corruption has happened and confusion because of that. Um, so, but obviously, even though God uses a teacher, this is His mechanism that by which He teaches us. And in theory, if you accept the messenger and you accept God's system, God will make it very easy for you. He will guide you because you're following His system. Uh, he He has established this way for you to be guided and be taught in order for you to make it.
Yeah, mashallah. I mean, anything good happens to us is from God. So God has ways He can teach us. He use messengers. Uh, Anything that we use in like computer or learning tools. I mean, these are not the one teaching us. Is God is teaching us through all this. And what a blessing that is, that God has sent messengers with proofs. like a miracle. And how hard would that be if somebody can just walk in, and if that's not the system, how hard would that be to justify if this person is a messenger of God or not, by looking at the miracle? And that makes our job so easy. Imagine just somebody walk in without an ID. How are you going to verify that person? But this is we need to be appreciative of God's blessing on that, mashallah.
It's also noteworthy that, the Surah, 54, previous to this one, it's the connection between 54 and how it, flows towards 55. That here are God mentioning about warnings, how terrible was my retribution after the warnings. Few times it's mentioned, and God talks about then Thamud, then what happened. And then the mercy comes, then first it's like an invitation to learn the Quran. Then God, being the teacher of Quran, meaning He will make you understand. Like Salman mentioned, that there is a system in place. Like, if you few things you do wrong, like consult other sources other than Quran, like uphold other sources other than Quran, uh, things like Hadith, Sunnah, or tradition, or hearsay here and there, then you are blanked out to actually learn the Quran or understand the Quran, the right understanding. So your ego will be getting the best of you, and uh, you'll end up being misguided while thinking you are guided. And from first, God talks about, like, what if you don't? What happened to those who rejected the message? And then God talks about the heaven and His mercy, and teaching of the Quran so beautifully. Praise God.
Yeah, mashallah, see how the flow is so awesome from Surah 54. Yeah, Quran is easy, and then God flows into Surah 54 and talking about all the marvels, and in which God's marvel can you deny, and going to, and then God talks about a little bit hell, and then heaven. And then Surah 56 comes in, and where it starts off with the three people be into three groups, and then God again talks about the heaven, hell, and the people they fail. And then amazingly, God goes into who can access all that, who can access who can be my student of this book. And God says that only the sincere can sit in my class. Anybody who's not sincere, they're probably going to get warning or something, and eventually they will be kicked out of my class. What an awesome flow that is, subhanallah.
It's just the most amazing book on this planet Earth. We have it in our hands, full of wisdom, full of, like whatever right and wrong, guidance, mercy, warnings, everything is described.
Mashallah.
And one thing I want to mention is when I start writing the notes in this WordPad, and I will extract the surah verses from the Quran, and then I wanted to make these fonts different than the other ones. So it will pop up differently as soon as I see, and then my handwritten notes will be like for like learning tools. I want them to separate. So I was going through the, when you highlight and select which one you're gonna use. So I was just going, clicking down. There's like 100, maybe several hundred different fonts, and I was just going which one I'm gonna pick. And then I picked one. This one appeared a little bit cool to me, mashallah. And after a while, I mean, I just check what text was it, and you know what is God made me select high tower text. right there on top, and it says high tower text. I didn't pick it. I just going through one by one. I said which one looks cool, and then I stopped on this one, and then I started doing the Quran studies. And after a while, I look at which one I selected. It was this high tower text. Subhanallah, mashallah.
What's the thing with the high tower?
Like I'm saying that I was just trying to make this, notes on the Quran. So
Mm-hmm.
I will like extract the verses from the Quran and just read them and
Mm-hmm.
highlight them and find out. So I wanted to make these texts different fonts than
Mm-hmm.
the. So I just highlighted it, and then I went through the, like selecting the fonts, and I didn't even look at which fonts I'm selecting. I'm just going one by one, down, down, down. And this one I just stopped. I said this looks very good, without looking what name was that. And after a
Mm-hmm.
while, and I was just checking which fonts I selected. It was not that same day, several days later, or maybe weeks later, I was just checking, and then it's the selected was high tower text. I don't know if you can read it on the
Mm-hmm.
screen. It says high tower text,
No,
high.
I got that part, but I was just wondering like what that means to you,
No,
or
it
you
doesn't
like the
mean
part
really
I was.
anything. It's just maybe, the font name itself is high tower text. This
Oh, I
text
see.
came from high tower, from God,
Oh,
He's the
okay,
high
I
tower.
see.
And just in a way,
Oh, I see.
not, yeah.
I see.
Not just random name, just it's a high tower
Oh, okay.
text. MashaAllah.
Awesome.
Masha, so critical to understand Surah Fatiha is the key, but that's why it's called. And we did talk about it in this class study, but I'm just gonna reinforce that it's so important to understand the key, the password. It's like opening a laptop. You see the login screen, and if you mess up with the code, I mean, this is compiled of 19. If you add one word to Surah Fatiha, like even reading at the end, Ameen, you have violated the code. Not only your salat, as you know, the code password is case sensitive. Eating, adding even one small thing, higher or lowercase or whatever, you're not gonna be able to log in. So reading Surah Fatiha in itself is so critical, and not only reading it, understanding it. The praise be to God, the Lord of the universe. So if you have other praises beside God, if you have other people that worship, you alone be worship, you alone be asked for help, you will not be accessed. I mean, these are the things that is very critical to understand why God has put that small surah in the beginning of the Quran before the very longest surah. I mean, this is not just a coincidence. This is a very important, as we learned that this is for the computer age, mashallah. Thank you.
Mashallah, interesting analogy you said, uh, that code, and when we talk about codes and computers, authentication key, there you get the authentication in the beginning. Okay, are you gonna worship him alone, ask him for help, only God, for the right path and all that? So you get authenticated right there. And it's also, you know the words, every word is so heavily coded, that surah, subhanallah. And that's what we do 5 times in our prayers, right? And each prayer has, you know few keys, either two, three, or four. Subhanallah.
Yeah, imagine the difference between a locked cell phone. It's no good. Every time you push power on, the login screen comes, and that's about far you're gonna get. And maybe you try so many times, it's gonna freeze, become like they'll not even let you try anymore. That's pretty much it. You have to find the right code, and God is providing the right code in the Quran. I mean, if you're not going to do that, then what a loss that is. I mean, these kind of gadgets, they can do so much for us nowadays. I mean, basically cell phone, you can do calculation and everything. you can do with these cell phones, and watch movies and go online, make calls. You're barred from all the benefits. You can memorize the whole Quran, but it's your brain will not access it. And we know that brain is like a computer, very much, that there's a hard drive, there's a memory back where we store all of our memories, and there's a frontal lobe that, I mean, when you read about the brain, human brain is almost like identical to a computer, where the live ROM is running, where all the current things happening. You go back into your hard drive and you pull out stuff, and then you run in your front brain, and everything's pretty much parallel to the computer, inshallah. Salãmun Alaykum, Steve.
Assalamu Alaikum, Adam. How are you?
Praise God, Masha Allah. I was waiting this Wednesday on your Quran study. I was gonna drop in, but was California time. I was there, but last week I didn't see you on Wednesday. Maybe you'd log in late.
No, I think we did. We had it last Wednesday.
Maybe. What time? The
If
California time was
anything, maybe 5 minutes late, maybe.
Oh, okay.
I can double check the exact time and let you know, Adam. God willing.
Yeah, maybe next time, before like 5-10 minutes, you can send me a message in the Facebook. So hopefully I can join you.
Oh,
Inshallah.
okay. Yep.
Thank you.
Masha Allah. Yes, Assalamu Alaikum, Steve. Thank you for joining. So we read Surah 55, Masha Allah. And if you got any comments or questions, God willing, we could talk about those. If, actually, I don't have the YouTube page open right now in front of me, but Nudut, do you see any questions on YouTube? Maybe we could talk about. Is there any comments? Okay, I see it now. Oh, there's a bunch of comments on YouTube actually, but they're all mostly in Turkish. Okay. I'm curious about Okay. Some people talked about which surah affected them the most emotionally. That's the only thing I see in English. And okay, there is an interesting comment about um what is it? The teacher of the Quran. It says Allah is the teacher. In my opinion, it it teaching to the inspiration is through the Holy Spirit. Well, the Holy Spirit is Angel Gabriel who brought it down. So he's the angel of revelation of the Quran, of a revelation of any scripture for that matter. So he does not come and teach me and you personally, for example, So, but God is the teacher of the Quran. So, but yes, the angel Gabriel will, bring God's revelations to the messengers of God. So, but if we say that the angel Gabriel comes and teaches us, then we might as well claim that we're messengers. But the angel Gabriel will come to a messenger of God and give them certain information. If they're destined to be messengers, and it's their job to reveal that information.
Yeah, most of them are in Turkish. We need a Google translator.
So I use it actually online, but on Facebook and stuff. Okay, I guess anybody else has any comments or questions um, before we end the stream, God willing. Um, if not, maybe we could conclude the study. What do you guys think? Sounds good. Hello? Okay.
No, I don't have any questions, Solomon.
Okay. Well, that was quick.
Sorry, but it sounds like you're expecting somebody to answer, so I was going to answer. Poor Solomon talking away.
Oh, it, it reminded me of the sloth in the what's the movie? I forgot the name of the movie. Where the fox tells a joke and then the sloth laughs after 10 minutes.
The Zootopia.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh my God, that's so annoying. See, my kids love this movie, and then I'm like, oh my God.
Okay. All right. Thank you guys for joining us. Masha Allah, God willing, our next study is going to be on Saturday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. And our teacher, God willing, I believe is going to be Nubrat or myself. One of us. Inshallah. God bless you all.
Salãmun Alaykum.
Assalamu
Yeah, Assalamu Alaikum.
alaikum.